Good afternoon, D&D, TikTok, and beyond, and welcome to Roll for Sandwich, the series where I let fate decide my lunch. Let's go. Today's episode of Roll for Sandwich is sponsored by Dietz & Watson. They've provided all of the meats, cheeses, and some other goodies for today's episode. Let's see what kind of sandwich we can make with them. Let's get things started with our roll for bread. 6 sourdough. Sourdough is always a good place to start, and I think we will go ahead and toast it today using our toasting cantrip. Put some nice color on the bread and get a little bit more structural support, and now we're ready to fill up our sandwich. Next up, let's roll for main. 9 pork ribs. These Dietz ribs from Dietz & Watson are a full rack of pork spare ribs. I'm obviously not going to put a full rack on a sandwich, but 4 or 5 ribs here should do. They come pre-cooked and marinated in a nice barbecue sauce, so all it takes is heating them up in the oven, and you've got nice ribs at home. I think we've had some leftover ribs on the show once before, but I've never made ribs specifically for the show. It's definitely not a bad start, and I'm very happy that I toasted the bread, because this one is going to be very full. Next up, let's roll for cheese. 4 Peppadew cheddar. This is a creamy processed cheddar with Peppadew peppers mixed in. Peppadew peppers come from South Africa and are also called sweet piquant peppers or Juanita piquant peppers. They're sweet and just a little bit spicy, and they're a nice addition to this cheese. I'm not taking too much care in how I'm cutting it because I have an idea. I think something that would serve this sandwich quite well is to use a level 2 spell on this cheese. I'm going to use Green Flame Blade, which allows me to use a torch to melt the cheese. We've already got the nice warm barbecue pork. Getting some char and melting this cheese is just gonna get us even closer to having something pretty tasty. I am hoping that I can make it through the rest of the rolls and not waste this spell. Next up, let's roll for our roughage. 8 tomato and 9 Peppadew peppers. This is a nice fresh tomato from my garden. We are in the season now where every couple of days I have another tomato or two to pull off of there. So it's always nice to use those. And there's nothing quite like produce that you grew yourself. Funnily enough, today was the first day that I had these Peppadew peppers on the list, and I happened to roll them with the Peppadew cheese. So I guess the dice decided that there wasn't enough Peppadew in our sandwich already, and this way you get to kind of see what they look like. I honestly think these combined with the tomato are a pretty great roll for this. We've got rich and fatty pork and cheese, and now we've got a little sweetness and a little acid to cut through that. All right, let's get wild with our wild magic roll. 17 smoked finishing salt. A viewer gave me this Scotch barrel smoked salt at GrandCon, and I'm excited to get to use some. The smokiness should go hand in hand with what we've already got going, and it's never a bad thing when you get to salt your tomatoes. And last but not least, it's the D20 sauce roll. Here we go. 9 chipotle mustard. Chipotle is actually made from smoked dried jalapenos, so flavor-wise, we're still right in there with the barbecue and acid and peppers. This was a pretty great roll for what we've got going. Let's get our toothpicks in to hold it together, and let's get it cut in half. And let's take a look at that cross-section. Oh, that looks good. Well, I'm not sure if the dice gods have smiled on me today or they're just gaslighting me for a future sandwich, but this one looks pretty good. Let's taste it. Yeah, I mean, this one's easy. Everything is very cohesive. Like I said, you've got that acid that cuts through the really rich pork and cheese. It's nice and warm. It's just an all-around great sandwich. Sometimes a million monkeys with typewriters really do write Shakespeare. Probably comes as no surprise. This one's a 10 for me. And I think I'm going to call this one the Peppadew Pig. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you again on Friday.